Dust. So much dust. YouTuber, tuber like a tuber, how is it going? It's Multiplier here. This video is all about shallow depth of field and how to do it. Now, shallow depth of field or blurry background. I'm sure you've seen it before. Maybe you've seen a picture of a cool bird like this and the background's all blurry. Or maybe you're doing something like this, which is more subtle, but it's the same principle. Notice how your eyes are drawn to what is in focus. So I went the wrong way then, that's what she said. So if I look in the focus distance, maybe zoom in on my little device here. Oh, I'm recording, so I can't do it. Using the focus ring, I focused on the record button. Notice how it's subtle, but notice how your eyes are drawn to the record button. Not even specifically necessarily just the record button, but these buttons here, not the screen over there, and not what's in the background. This is because of the shallow, cool. So that is because of this shallow depth of field. Shallow depth of field means the background ends up being blurry. Blurry, a blurry background. And so, how do you do this? What is going on? Now, the important thing is the F number. The F number here is f1.8. And that's because I have a really cool lens. This really cool lens is a Sigmund is a delay unit for your computer. Music production made by D16. My lens is a Sigma art lens 18 to 35 f1.8. The smaller the f number, which is called the aperture, the smaller the f number, the bigger the hole. The smaller the f number, the shallower the depth of field. And therefore, the more blurry the background, which not only looks cool, but it serves a function as well. So yes, it definitely looks cool. Let's not overlook the fact that it looks cool. It looks cool, but it allows you to guide the viewer's eyes to a specific part of the image. But let me first of all do a comparison. So this is f1.8 facilitated by this lens with a big hole. For comparison, the lens that came with my camera only goes down to, I think it went down to f3.5. So big difference, f1.8, much bigger than f3.5. So my newer lens has a much shallower depth of field at f1.8 than my older lens did at f3.5. Remember, the smaller the f number, get that lined up perfectly so my brain doesn't explode. The smaller the f number, the wider the aperture, and so the shallower the depth of field, the more blurry the background. So this is f1.8. Let me show you f11 for comparison. So because this is a Nikon, I need to go out of live view and change the aperture. So f11 and then go back into live view. So this is f11. F11, look at that. Now, what I would do is editing to put these side by side on screen. Look at that. Wowzers, trousers. Wowzers with trousers. Whoa, look at that, look at that. Look how much different that looks with a blurry background versus not a blurry background. Now, there's a time and a place for this, obviously. If you want someone to be able to see you all the way through your image, such as here, where you want to see me and the room, then in that situation, you probably do want a narrower aperture, a larger f number. But more often than not, you probably want to guide the viewer's eyes to a specific thing. Awesome, fantastic. Now that was a weird spin. Let me tell you another advantage of a bigger hole, lower f number, wider aperture, and then the disadvantage, just to balance it out. So I will put editing f1.8 and f11. Can you see, so ignoring now depth of field and blurry background, etc., can you see another difference between these two images? I'll give you a few seconds. Time's up. Okay, so one of them is a bit more grainy, which is worse quality. So grain on a camera is a result of ISO. On cameras, the ISO is just like your gain on a sound card. So if you've used a microphone or any form of microphone or thing, probably be a microphone. So if you've used a microphone and you have your gain, which is almost like your volume, that's basically what the ISO is on a camera. And as you increase the gain, you hear more noise, and equivalently, as you increase the ISO, you see more noise. So you're probably wondering, in fact, I'll back on the screen, and so you're probably wondering, why would you need to increase the ISO for f11? Well, physics. And you don't even need to know the physics, just sort of common sense, a common sense approach to physics. So with a wider aperture, a smaller f number, that means a bigger hole, and therefore more light comes through. And therefore, the camera doesn't need to turn up its gain anywhere near as far, and so it's effectively less noisy. On screen, look at that, look at that, look at that, fantastic. Now let me read off ISO values for comparison. Of course, the specific ISOs will be dependent on the camera and the light outside and everything. But for comparison, at f1.8, I'm at ISO 280. At f11, I'm at ISO 1600. Now, it should actually be a little bit higher to balance everything up properly. Now, I've configured in the settings here to basically make sure it can never get higher than 1600. Because on this camera, anything higher than 1600 and it's basically unusable. And so that is another advantage of this smaller f number. The smaller the f number, the more light comes through, and so the easier it is for the camera to absorb all that information. Really cool. Now, disadvantages. There are not many disadvantages to bigger holes, wider apertures. One of the disadvantages is kind of not a disadvantage, but just a consideration, which is how small that depth of field actually is. Very, very small. So at f1.8, you can see, look how narrow that depth of field is. Only a tiny, tiny amount of the things in focus. So if I wanted to have, say, all of those buttons on the left-hand side readable, I would need a less wide aperture, or change my angle so that more of the distance between the front and back buttons was smaller. So you can sometimes change the angle to help that sort of thing. And finally, the other disadvantage is a size thing. So, my got a little life hack down there. Don't know if you can see it. So I can notice how it's not tipping over. Notice how it's not tipping over, even though it should. Got some weight at the back. Cool little life hack. Anyway, can you see how big the lens is? It's really big. It's really heavy as well, which appeals to the manly man in me wanting big, heavy things. Totally fine when on a tripod, but if you're walking about, maybe you're walking about looking for butterflies, then the weight might be an issue. As to get those really wide apertures, you need a big hole, and a big hole means you need a big lens and a bunch of big heavy glass stuff. And as a result, it all tends to get rather expensive. So generally speaking, the wider the aperture, the more expensive the lens is, as it's more difficult to make. Awesome. I'm going to put this there. That's totally cool. Maybe I can show you. I'm going to lose my framing. But that's cool. Can you see what I did? Put some weights. Put some weight. Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait. Put some weights. Weights. That's what that is over there in the corner. Weights. Also got a board game underneath the thing with all the things. Shelves. For reasons I will leave up to be a mystery. There's that. It's a mystery. Is that? No idea. I've lost all my framing. I moved the tripod. Ah, disaster. Total disaster. Anyway, it wasn't what. Anyway, is that in frame? I don't know. That's probably fine. It's probably fine. Does that feel about right? Does it feel about right? That's what she said. Knowledge. Don't go to college to get knowledge. Or do. Totally your call. Shallow depth of field, blurry backgrounds. My name has been Multiplier, and I will catch you guys on the flippity flip.